Welcome everyone to the most powerful masterclass for building, protecting, and restoring your immune system. How to become number one at the art of number two. This is a 7-day event that will change your life for the rest of your life. This masterclass will run from Tuesday, September the 29th until Sunday, October the 4th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with a live Q&A with me on Wednesday, October 7th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and docofdetoxshow.com. If you do not have a chance to watch this life-saving, life-changing masterclass, you will be able to join it for free for a limited time. Please go to the docofdetox.com. So go to docofdetox.com, then click at the top on Library, and then click on the A to Z Wellness Master Classes Guide. Once you click on there, you will have a choice of 2 master classes: Healing Your Muscles, Joints and Organs, Wolfe Non-Surgical Bodywork Masterclass, or How to Become Number One at the Art of Number Two. Uncover and discover the practitioner from within and become the healer you seek. Enjoy my gift to you and pay it forward. God bless. Welcome to part 9, everyone. The domino effect of a nation of constipation. Let go and enjoy the show. The reality is this: if I could get you to just buy into one thing, to create the perfect day for yourself. What if you created the perfect day by creating the perfect diet? That would be a diet full of life, full of frequency, full of light. That would be a diet straight from the farmer, not from the pharma. Okay? And understand something, the perfect day diet, it's the only permanent weight loss. Because guess what? It's not a weight problem. It's a toxicity problem. And the only reason why you're creating fat in the first place is you got to store all this inflammation and toxin somewhere, or have a heart attack or a stroke, or just get cancer and die right away. So your body says, hey, I'm going to get you fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. The more that you suppress these emotions that you don't know how to handle, and the more that you eat these bad foods. So bad moods create bad foods. And then guess what? They create bad cells, which are fat cells. But if you didn't, the only reason why you have fat and you create more fat is you have more inflammation and more toxins. You need a storage tank. And did you ever notice, where's the storage tank? Well, it's around your abdomen, isn't it? Isn't it around your hips, your abdomen? Isn't that where you get fat? Come on, guys. There's a clue here. So that means that your large intestine is breaking down, and you're absorbing your own fecal waste. And now you've got these drill bit predators in you drilling holes. And now all this infection is flowing into your pelvis. And your body goes, make fat, make fat. We can't deal with this. Alarm system, alarm system. So you're either going to do the perfect day by learning how to love, honor, and respect yourself. Okay? Because healthcare is self-care. And true love is self-love first. And then you shine that light on everyone else. And understand something. It can go the other way. Understand that if you have a toxic lifestyle on an emotional and physical level, and you're gaining weight, that's a lot better than losing weight. So if you're the type of person that's a real terrorist, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose muscle. Okay, so understand something. Those of you that are really skinny and too skinny, you're not losing weight. You're losing muscle because you're losing your immune system. So you'd be better off to be creating fat cells and be fat. And that's that. So skinny people, underweight skinny people, I wouldn't call myself skinny. I'd call myself, I could get into better physical shape, and I know I got to work on that. But the reality is, I'm not like a skinny person, but somebody would say to me, oh, well, especially people that are overweight would say, you need to put some meat on those bones in case you get sick. I mean, who made that up? I mean, there are so many old tales that are going around that they need to stop. They need to stop and understand something. You are just a product of corporations. So please take the time, go to the Perfect Day Guide, page 28, and look at the Perfect Day protocol. All right? And right there, you'll see the 4 self-loving steps. Start with those. Okay? And then look at the Perfect Day diet and just start playing with it. Give yourself a chance. And know this, your subconscious is going to go, nope, too foreign for me. You're not doing that. Even if you're killing yourself right now, which most people are, you're killing yourself, okay, on some level right now, your subconscious will not accept even if you could save your life right now. You got to want it. You got to want it from your heart. You got to work from your heart. You got to feel your way through this thing. And you got to be logical. You got to be logical. Where's common sense gone? I don't think we have it anymore. Take a look at this food combining chart, everyone. Okay? So here's the deal. I'll make it really as easy as possible for you, okay? All right? You can eat sweet fruits with subacids. You can eat subacid fruits with acidic fruits, but you shouldn't eat sweet fruits and acidic fruits together. Now, you can go into the Perfect Day Guide and find out what a sweet fruit is, a subacid fruit, and an acidic fruit. But the reality is I believe in this, and this is it. I believe in eating one fruit at a time. I don't believe in doing fruit salad or combining a bunch of fruits. Because guess what? Are you better off, even though, okay, Darrell, I want you to do 3 different things in this room so you don't have to leave. Or do you think I could do one thing at a time better or 3 different things? Or could I do one thing better instead of 2 different things? Now, even though they're both fruit, okay, the healthier you want to be, then you got to eat more mono. Don't make your life into a bloody buffet because, hey, do you ever see people who go to buffets? You got it, right? Okay, so now, you can mix a starch vegetable with starch foods, starch vegetables like potatoes or, things of that nature, or rice, and you can mix that with veggies, okay? And you can mix veggies with grains, okay? But let's not mix starch foods with proteins. When you mix a starch and a protein together, they neutralize each other and you blow up. Come on, your meat and potato man, he's blowing up all the time. Your burgers and fries, boom, right? And melons, you always have to eat alone. So there's just some basic rules. And you don't have to go crazy over this, but just start looking. And when you start not following these basic rules, see how you feel. See what your bowel movement's like. See how your gas is. See if you feel more achy or more tired or more confused in your head, because it's gut-brain connection. And understand, when you break the gut-brain connection, you don't think straight. You don't think right at all. So understand that. And we need to start thinking right. And that right would be becoming the light for ourselves and then our families. But understand, it's not just about eating. It's also about your water. Now, understand this. Yes, you can get electron charging unit, a unit that adjusts the pH. You can do distilled water, reverse osmosis, and a carbon filter. But understand one thing. No matter what type of water you drink, it has to be structured. In nature, our ancestors only drank structured water, rainwater, and fast-moving water coming off a mountain. That's structured water. Did you know that structured water will hydrate into your cells 1,000% better than any other water? Did you know that if you don't take structured water in, then what's going to happen is your body has to structure it? And did you know how much energy it takes? Let's say for an average 150-pound man, you could actually run a 2,500 square foot home on the electricity energy that you burn trying to structure the amount of water that a 150-pound man would need, which would be about 90 ounces of water, okay, for 2 months. That's how much electricity you would burn in energy, as if you were comparing from house to body. So the reality is when you drink structured water, it's got the lowest surface tension. It removes every frequency from whoever drank it, because water goes from toilet to toilet 17 times before it gets purified. So whoever drank it, it picks up their moods. Well, whoever drank it picks up their vibration. And understand something, even though you may filter the water and get out the physical component, the frequency, because we all know about homeopathics, is still left there from the chemicals and the drugs and the person who drank it. Don't believe me? It's science. So the reality is, if you take a look at the picture here, get yourself a portable structure unit. Get yourself a portable shower, because if you take a 10-minute to 20-minute shower, depending on where you live, you will have taken in as much fluorine chlorine or fluoride, okay, as if you drank 20 glasses of water. So understand, your skin just goes with those chemicals. So getting yourself a shower head and a portable structure unit, I'm going to give you a 90-day money-back guarantee, and if you don't want to buy it from us, buy it from someone else. But the reality is, I'm going to give you a 90-day money-back guarantee to prove that this is going to lighten you up. It's going to help your bowel movements. It's going to help the nutrition get in better. It's going to help the cells detoxify easier. Understand something. So we know that right now, chemtrails are all over the place. Take a look up in the sky. We also know that there's other chemical poisoning going on. It's in the atmosphere. We know this, that when the water comes up, the water comes down, and it picks up a lot of heavy metals and chemicals, right or wrong. Now, when it comes down, why are the birds, bees, flowers, trees not being damaged? Why is it, okay, that the crops are growing just as good as 500 years ago? Because the water's structured. Because that which I call my creator, my God, knew that man was a manipulator and he's going to screw stuff up. And the reality is, when you structure the water, even though you don't get rid of the physical poisoning, it protects every living organism and even you. And don't believe me, do the science. Now, you don't structure water with electricity or with a carbon filter. All right? You need to understand that. It's done by natural action, flow. So you can go into my library and read about structured water and watch the video I did with Dr. Darrell Wolfe, who's known as the father of water, and you can make your own decisions. And guess what? Just because people aren't doing it doesn't make it wrong. And just because everybody's doing something doesn't make it right. And understand something. Water is the same thing with, if there's no water in the river, how are you ever going to get the logs to the mill? If you're not drinking enough water, and if it doesn't have low surface tension, how's it going to clean? Because we know that low surface tension water, and that's like if I said to you, go clean the house with cold water or go clean it with hot water. What cleans faster? And that's why I tell everyone, never start your day or end your day forgetting this. Do not forget this. Start your day with hot water. At least 16 ounces of hot water. I try to do about 20 to 30, believe it or not. And then I'll do like a 16-ounce glass of hot water before I go to bed, because it helps to clean. It makes everything move. It's soothing when you go to bed, and it helps to gently wake up the body and get it going in the morning. So let's move on to this slide. Advanced 6-Day Water Fasting Challenge. Please go into my library and look at the 6-Day Advanced Water Fasting Guide. When you go into that guide, you're going to see something. You're going to see the most advanced water fast ever. And believe it or not, we use 4 different products, and we can do it because it doesn't turn on the digestive tract, but it actually helps your fast and enhances your fast by a 500 to 1,000%. And I'm not kidding. It'll help you get through a fast a lot easier. So you can either do the fasting with me with just water, and I'm going to teach you all the exercise, how to do the breathing, how to get through it. And when we do the 6-day advanced water fasting, I come on for 5 of those days, and I come on there answering questions throughout the fast to support you. And we do that every 8 weeks. And guess why? Because the first time you might just want to be a spectator. And then later you might want to jump on in a little bit. You might just want to do 1 day. Or maybe you get to 6 days and go, I can do 10. Who knows? But understand, there is no life-threatening problem with fasting, water fasting, when you do it right. And guess what? People don't get harmed. But if you do it right, you don't have all the bumping and the grinding and the negative symptoms. And that's what I'm here for. So if you want to unleash more stem cells than anything else, if you want to unleash the power of autophagy, eating up cancer cells and scar tissue and getting rid of the crap in your body, then you want to understand that fasting holds unlimited potential for you. So go in and just read or watch the videos that are in there. I've got great videos in there. And before everybody starts the fasting, they watch the first video because it prepares you for it. So when you're willing and wanting to take it all back and become the light for your family, then take massive personal action and go to the library. Okay? All right. So, I hope you're getting this, everyone. When you are backed up, your back acts up. Now, if you can believe it or not believe it, but there are so many therapists out there, chiropractor, physio, okay, massage therapy, and understand something right now. I'm going to tell you right now. You ready for this? 95 to 98% of it is all about your bowel, and it's actually caused your low back problem. Yes, it did. And I go through that in more depth, okay, with other videos. But understand something. I think you already get it. Look at it. If you've been with me through this whole masterclass, then you understand the power of the large intestine. And understand something. How would you ever have inflammation if you didn't have infection? And the reality is, why don't you just see how much tone you have in your abdomen? Okay? Because the less tone you have in your abdomen, the more tighter your back's going to be, the more scar tissue you're going to have, the more inflammation, the more displaced calcium. And I don't care how many times you try to push that spine back into place, or how many times you try to get somebody to soothe it. You got to get somebody to go in there with Wolfe Non-Surgical. And you got to take that scar tissue apart. And then you got to take a look at SAC calcium, because it's the only product in the world that actually can take all the displaced calcium in your body, put it back in your bones. And there'll be a lot of other tricks about, the belly button therapy, the pelvic activation squat, the pelvic enhancer, okay, clapping. I'm going to teach you all of these things in my library. Hey, listen. The answers are there. I understand you didn't have a choice before, but now you truly have a choice. And understand something. Please get this. And I think you're going to understand this really well right now. But understand this. Almost all plagues and epidemics were caused by unsanitary conditions. Everybody is going, oh my God, thank you for the antibiotics. I'm not telling you not to take them, but I'm going to tell you right now, the plumber saved the world, because the plumber took the actual sewage and the waste that was above ground, that was making people sick, and he put it underground. Because when you've got good plumbing, if you didn't have good plumbing in your house, you'd be tracking poop throughout your house. Everybody would be sick. But now you're just tracking poop throughout your body, aren't you? You didn't know that, did you? And is anybody even telling you that? No. Look at all the people. You just go down to the mall. Look at how many people. Being 10 pounds overweight, we don't need to be that way. But 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, holy crap, am I in an auction or what? The reality is that you can be over 80 pounds overweight and nobody even gives you a second thought anymore. Because guess what? The majority of the population is not overweight, okay? They're overinflamed because they're overinfected, because they're constipated. That's not true. I have bowel movements every day. It's not what comes out, it's what stays in, and it's what spills over, because you've got a plumbing problem. And you need to call a plumber. And I guess that's what I am. I'm a plumber of the human body. All right? So, medical doctors took the credit, right? Didn't they? But the plumber saved the world. And understand something. If you want to save your butt, go read The Domino Effect of Unhealthy Living. Okay? It's in my library. Go read that or go watch the video and you'll find out that that is the main domino that causes all the rest to fall. Okay? So understand something. A healthy colon? Find me a healthy colon. Right. The only place you're going to see it here is on this picture. I mean, even infants today, when they're babies, when they're born, their colons are already twisted. They're already inflamed and infected, because whatever mommy does on an emotional and physical level, baby gets. And understand something. Is there loving in the oven? Okay? Or is there disruption? Is mommy constipated, or does mommy have a good flow? Does mommy have the perfect day diet? And does mommy live with not a terrorist? Does mommy have a daddy, have a husband, have a spouse that is loving and understanding, and they're the support team, the protector, the guider? Understand something. What you consider to be husband and wife, I don't want anything to do with. What you consider to be a normal relationship, I don't want anything to do with. I was in a relationship for a long time, and that person used to say to me, listen, fighting, that's what couples do. I don't do that anymore. I don't fight. And I don't fight because I got quiet. That's obvious. I'm not too quiet, am I? I don't have to fight because people that fight are actually fighting themselves before they fight anyone else. The greatest fight you'll ever have is within yourself because you're not yourself. You're everybody else being everything else. So let's talk about this. So the first one you're going to see is balloon sigmoid. See, where the red is, that's called the sigmoid. Okay? And that is your majority of the population. And then if you don't look after that balloon sigmoid, which is basically constipation, come on, gotta get it out. You know, I'll tell you right now, as soon as my diet goes off a little bit, or I go and fly and I don't take the right precaution and drink a quart of water like every 30 to 40 minutes when I fly, and it's structured water, I get constipated, and I do that little bit of groaning and that little bit of pushing. But guess what? People push every day until they get a hiatal hernia. That's right, or an inguinal hernia. Well, hiatal hernia is from pushing because you're trying to push your diaphragm down all the time. So the pyloric valve pops up through the diaphragmatic hole, and that's why you got a hiatal hernia. But we can fix that here at the Doc of Detox. I just want you to know, I guarantee you we can fix it. Okay? And they say you can't, but you can fix it. And then an inguinal hernia is caused because you rotted out. That's what an inguinal hernia is. You rotted out. Your bowel rotted out. No, that's not true. I tried to help my wife and tried to move the couch and it blew out. Yeah, well, because you had no tone and you rotted out. The whole lining that was holding your guts in, it just rotted out. Pelvic floor rot. So here we go. Balloon sigmoid, constipation. If that goes on for too long, then you get colitis. Colitis just means inflammation of the colon. Why didn't they just say that? If the waste sits there for too long, it creates bad bacteria. Those bad bacteria gas off, and then they start to actually inflame the lining until there's so much inflammation in there that it's like putting the colon on a barbecue, and then it just shrivels up like beef jerky. And that's what you see down at the lower part of that red with the colitis, is it's just a piece of beef jerky. But you'll never fix that unless you want to go for surgery or you want to get Wolfe Non-Surgical, because we can go in there and actually pull that apart. Yeah, I'm telling you, we can. Now, and then let's look at the third one, diverticuli. Did you ever have diverticulitis? That just means inflammation of your diverticuli. And diverticuli are just outpouchings, and that's because the waste got caught in the pouches of the bowel, called haustras, and it ate through the lining, and so now you've got a bulge coming out through your bowel like you would on a tire. It's just a bulge. And believe it or not, get on the perfect day, get on the daily cleansing tea, tummy love, black gold. And guess what? Those diverticuli aren't just going to not be inflamed. They're going to heal and go away, just like a polyp would. Polyp's just a wart inside your colon because you have an environment to grow warts. That's all. So now let's take a look at the last one, prolapse. And this is what we're dealing with. This is big time. So let's take a look. Take a look at the one that says prolapse with pressure on organs. Take a look on the left side of the picture. You see the little tail? That's the appendix. And what happens is there's what's called the ileocecal valve there, where from the small intestine that's 22 feet long, the waste comes in through the ileocecal valve, which with most people, the ileocecal valve doesn't shut anymore. So that's why a lot of people get SIBO. And SIBO is where you get infection in your small intestine, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Well, the overgrowth is not overgrowth. Nobody told you that they couldn't shut the door because the valve stayed open because of the poop, because you ate too much cheese, too much dairy products, too much flour, too much bread, and you didn't drink enough water, so the poop got stuck and the poop was in the doorway, didn't let it shut. So now it and even parasites and fungus can get back into the small intestine and cause SIBO. There. Let's talk about that. Now, I've got no tone in my bowel. I've got no tone in my colon because I eat dead food, so I have a dead bowel. I eat too much pasta, so I have a flabby bowel. I eat empty foods with no nutrition, so there's no nutrition in my cells in my bowel, and the bowel is a muscle, and because the muscle has no tone, it falls down. So the transverse part of the colon fell down, and you see that valley that's red? Well, guess what? Good luck, eh? Okay, so now we eat. It's got to go 22 feet through the small intestine and then 5 to 7 feet through the large intestine. So it's got to go from where you see that little tail called the appendix, climb up the ascending colon. Then it's got to go around the hepatic flexure, which means liver area, in that corner. Then it's got to go down into the valley where you see the red. In the red, that means you're dead, because the reality is your bowel's dead. And that waste, by the time it goes down into the valley, and then it's got to climb back up, I mean, it's basically trying to crawl up. And it's so rotten down there that you are just polluting your pelvis. I mean, no wonder the prostate problems are blowing through the roof. No wonder hysterectomies, myomectomies, bladder infections. No wonder women have scar tissue in their fallopian tubes and they can't have babies. No wonder men, their sperm cell count is so weak. It's so toxic. No wonder you can't pee anymore. You can't poo properly. Oh my God, you're just cutting off, which is called the waistline, which is the biggest joint in your body, where you bend over, right? If you bend over, that's called the waistline. And you've jammed that whole sucker up. So no wonder you're retaining water in your feet. No wonder your feet hurt, your knees hurt, your hip hurts, because all of that waste is being absorbed into your lower part of your abdomen, into your pelvis. And the pelvic bowl is so inflamed and you're rotting out. And that's why now you got to have hip replacement, knee replacement. That's why your feet are hurting all the time. How am I doing? So the reality is now that waist comes down into the valley. Got to climb up, got to get around that tight corner. It was never a tight corner before. The next corner is called the splenic flexure at the top on the far right. Okay, so it's got to squeeze around there, and then it's got to come down, and then it's got to come out like some kind of rabbit turd or some kind of nugget, or you're going to get diarrhea. And don't tell me, why wouldn't you grow a tumor, fibroid, cysts? Okay? You know, why wouldn't you have low back problems? So here's the deal. And understand something. You can walk around with your stomach falling down and out or sticking straight out. Or you can be totally thin and, you know, you can hardly even poop anymore. And nobody questions it. Nobody questions it. It's not because people don't care. It's because healthcare is not health. The only health care is self-care. So you're going to have to take personal action, massive personal action, if you want this to change. Because understand something. You saw the large intestine, what it's like. You heard what I've been telling you about the drill bit predators. You heard what I've told you about the inflammation and the bowel breaking down. Well, where do you think all that waste goes? It goes into your bloodstream, as you see in this picture. So you've got all that waste going into your bloodstream, which is flowing all around your body. And guess what? Where's it going to get caught up at? Well, it's going to get caught up wherever the organ is, whatever organ is the weakest, because the organ that's the weakest has the most blocks in it. Or it's going to you're going to have that dirty blood get caught up in your heart, your lungs. Where else? It's all going to thicken up. Oh my gosh, I don't know why my blood is so thick. I don't know, because maybe you're pooping into it. What do you think? But here's the deal. When you start absorbing the waste into your bloodstream, your liver that does over 500 jobs already is overburdened. Your liver goes, please, what are you doing? Large intestine, please, what are you doing? You can't be pooping into the bloodstream. I've got over 500 jobs already. And the colon doesn't even answer. Why? Because it's in a coma. It's asleep. It can't even answer the liver, and the liver's got to pick up the load. How do you feel when your partner or people in your family aren't doing their job around the house and you got to do everything? You're eventually going to break down or you're going to blow. So anyways, the liver gets overworked. And what do we call that? Chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, fatty liver, cirrhosis of the liver. How about that? Gallbladder problems, okay? And then from there, now we've got the colon and we got the liver overworked. So now guess what? Oh, well, guess what's happening? What's been happening since we've been dumping poisons into the blood? Well, we know that we've been backing the waste up into the colon. So now that whole plaque coating and the holes in the large intestine, the lymph system is backing up because the lymph system dumps toxins into your bowel. But what if your bowel wasn't moving? What if your bowel was caked up with waste? What if it didn't have tone? Okay, so now take a look. Take a look at the middle picture. Look at mommy. Look at how puffy mommy is. Look at the little girl. She's got lymph problems already because she's so constipated. Oh my God. And do you want to know something? Shame on you, parents. Shame on you. Yeah, it's great. Okay, I understand. 40% of children are overweight or obese. Okay, so she fits in. Well, she's not going to fit in her clothes. She's not going to fit in when it comes to loving herself. She's going to think she's cursed, but she's going to make the best out of it because everybody else is overweight, probably in the family as well. And understand something. Don't you get me wrong. I love everybody the same. I don't care who they are, how short they are, tall they are, religion, color, size. It makes no difference to me. But understand something. The suffering's got to stop. And understand something. Just because, okay, you can have a baby, just because you can get somebody pregnant, doesn't mean you know how to or you deserve a baby. Think about that. And I'm not saying you're undeserving, but the thing is you don't deserve to feel like a bad parent because they gave you a manual that's broken. This isn't about you being a bad person. You've done everything you could. You did the best you could for your children and yourself up until the point. You can't do better until you know better, and they're not going to give it to you, but I'm going to give it to you. I'd like you to prove that I'm not going to give you everything because I'm going to give you everything that you were supposed to get. Because that is my passion, okay? That's what's fulfilling to me. So you need to understand something. Don't you dare put me in an authoritative point. I am not the authority over you. And don't you ever let anybody be authority over you. And the next somebody says, I'm an expert, I'm a specialist, you run like hell. Because the only expert is going to be you, the only specialist is going to be you, and the only practitioner should be you. So now your lymph system is backed up and you've got puffball syndrome. You're retaining water like crazy. And now we got trouble in River City. So what happens after that? Well, we know the kidneys are going to get overburdened. All the other organs are. So now you're getting kidney problems. And understand, when you get kidney problems, that's when it can be too late. So now you got kidney problems, you got bladder problems. Now you can't pee properly, okay? Or you're up all night because you have to go to pee so often. And what's happening with most people? Oh, well, they only get up like 3 or 4 times a night. They feel like they got to go. And then they get to the bathroom. Wimp, wimp, 3 or 4 drops. Okay, everything is infected now. This can all be reversed. But understand something. When you get kidney disease, you better take massive action because everything else is blowing out. So now guess what? So now it's not just the colon that's in coma. It's not just the liver that has fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. It's not just the lymph system that's backed up and puffy. It's not just the kidneys that are screaming bloody murder. Okay? Now your skin, because your skin is the last, but it's the biggest cleansing organ on your body. And now you're getting hives. Now you're getting eczema. Now you're getting psoriasis. Now you're getting rashes. Now your skin feels dry. Now you're getting aging spots. They're not aging spots. They're not sunspots. It's mold. You're an oldie moldy no matter what age you are. And they're coming all over the place because guess what? You're rotting. That's right. Did you ever take a look at fruit? Would you eat fruit that was getting all brown? No. That's what's happening. Okay, you're overripe, sweetie. You're overripe. And your skin is the mirror of your large intestine. And your skin doesn't go bad until all the other organs are already overburdened. Okay? So you need to get that. So, your skin is the mirror of your large intestine. What shape is your skin in? Very important. Very important. So let's not forget. Your kidneys, okay, all right, and your skin are related. When your kidneys get into trouble, okay, your skin's going to get into more trouble. Now, I showed you the domino effect. It may not go exactly like this, but start looking at your life and look at other people's lives and tell me that there's not a domino effect to this whole thing. And understand now, all of these organs are up in arms and they all had a meeting. The kidneys, the liver, the lymph, okay? They're all having a meeting now. And even the lungs are getting involved. And they're all having a meeting and they're crying out to the brain, what are we going to do? We're being poisoned. I told you the colon was the most powerful organ in the body, didn't I? If it shuts up, everything starts screaming, let me tell you. Okay, so what happens? The brain says, okay, guys, I'll come to the rescue. So it's a meeting of the brain. So what does the brain do? There's only one thing left to do, guys. What's that? Well, we got to get the pressure off of you, so we got to break the dam, and we got to get the cork out. So we got to get the cork out of them, right? So what do? We send as much water as we can down to the large intestine where all the infection started, and we give you diarrhea. Hey, nobody likes diarrhea. And at the end of it, you're so tired, you're so exhausted. Oh, God. But you feel better, and you don't feel like you're dying anymore, but you feel like your electrolytes are gone. So you got to bring your electrolytes back up, right? Which are minerals and enzymes. So what do you got to do? You know what you got to do. Get on the perfect day. But the reality is, if you didn't get the diarrhea, how would you like a heart attack? And guess what? How would you like a stroke? How would you like cancer? How would you like kidney disease? How would you like liver disease? How would you like lymphoma? All right? So, hey, so just like the whale blowing it off, okay, your butt's going to blow it off to take the pressure down, because if you don't flush the pounds to lighten the load, flush those waste pounds to lighten the load, something else has got to blow. So it's better to blow out that end. And understand something. How's this? Everybody knows about this, don't you? I feel sick to my stomach. I can't eat anymore. Every time I eat, I feel sick. Well, guess what? It's not rocket science. All right? All right? Get on the daily cleansing tea, tummy love, black gold, and start doing some enemas, okay, and get the waste out. And then your body will say, okay, man, it's all good. You can eat now, because guess what? You had the traffic backed up so much that, guess what? We're overloaded. So all we needed you to do was just open up the back door, and we'll open up the front door for you. Stay logical, use common sense, okay? Or you'll be spending more than sense. You'll spend all your money on your health, okay? And I'm not making this up, because this is the domino effect of life. And the domino effect can be the other way. As soon as you take massive personal action, you'll turn that around. So I know, I get it. Diarrhea, and it's not fun. All pooped out and all drained out. That's what you're going to be. And you're going to be exhausted for 2 to 3 days. But the more that you bring in the electrolytes, okay, the enzymes, the minerals, the whole plant-based foods, right, the faster you're going to come up. This is the end of part 9, the domino effect of a nation of constipation. We will see you in part 10, rotten to the core. Welcome to part 10, everyone. Rotten to the core. Are you ready for more? Enjoy the show. Don't forget the pelvic soup bowl. Don't forget that the colon is a second brain. Don't forget that your spine has spinal fluid, and that fluid has more light, more information, more communication for your brain, tells your brain where you're at. But what if the communication was toxic? What if the communication was toxic? And that main communication we know comes from the large intestine, which then goes where? Creates the energy, and whatever that energy is, whatever those vibrations, those frequencies are, goes down in and goes up through the coccyx into the spinal fluid and up to your brain. And understand something, you're either going to retrain your brain to take your life back, or you'll be on the pain train for the rest of your life. So let's take a look at the amazing Holy Grail, and that's your large intestine. Okay, take a look at this first slide, balloon sigmoid. Now understand something. Like I said before, this is the normal, average majority of the population. As you can see with this balloon sigmoid, if you take a look at where the red section is, you'll see 3 bumps. Those 3 bumps are the diverticuli that I was talking about. Now, those diverticuli can actually become diverticulitis, which mean inflammation. And that's only because there's so much pressure there, chemical and physical pressure, that we're getting an actual blowout like a tire. So understand that. Now, think about this. What do you think would happen? Now, your sigmoid is on the left side of your body, okay? It also is about the last, it's in around the last 8 inches, okay, of the body. It's about actually 4 to 5 inches long, okay? Now, we know that there's impaction, there's waste, it's putrefying, it's rotting. So where do you think most of the infection would lie? Well, it would lie probably on your left side, wouldn't it? So what do you think would happen? Well, you might have pain down in your lower pelvis. You could have cysts on your ovaries. Definitely you're creating endometriosis and scar tissue. And even men get scar tissue, but guess what? They don't have all of those organs and those things going on, so it doesn't show that much. But understand something. This inflammation that we're getting from the infection is actually causing scar tissue, and it's going to build up, and it's especially going to build up on the pubic bone as well. You know your pubic bone comes across, right? Well, on the left side of the pubic bone, you'll actually see that it's higher. But the more scar tissue and displaced calcium you have, the more that you will have what we call the camel's hump. Because the pubic bone, you shouldn't be able to feel it, and it shouldn't have a hump on it. Go figure, eh? Now, seeing that on the sigmoid is the left side, you're going to see that this person could have swelling in their ankles. They could have knee pain or knee problems, or they need knee surgery. But definitely we know something, that eventually if that were to continue, that person would end up with prostate problems, ovarian problems, and especially on the left side, left ovary, and fallopian tube on the left side. Okay, there you go. And then also, what's a big one? Well, remember what I said before, you'll probably end up having hip surgery, or your hips are going to be really stiff, but the stiffest hip will be on the left side. So that's what a balloon sigmoid is going to get you. And not talking about all the rest of the discomfort. So let's go to the next slide. So we talked about diverticuli, didn't we? Okay? So understand something. The condition, of having diverticula is diverticulosis. Oh my God, you've got diverticulosis. Well, what you've got is chronic constipation, and you're blowing out that part of the bowel that the stagnation in the waste was there for so long. And the itis, diverticulitis, just means inflammation. So diverticula, that is the condition, and or diverticuli is the one. And then itis means it's got inflammation. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not a disease. A disease is just a symptom. And disease names are just to show us where things are. Diseases aren't the end of the world. And the diseases are going to get more symptomatic, and you're going to have more pain and more suffering with the mistreatment. And you're going to get mistreated in life, even if you go the natural route, if you don't learn how to bring it home, if you don't learn how to look after yourself. And that's the reality. Let's move on. We talked about polyps, and like I said, a polyp is what? It's like a wart in the intestines. You're never going to get a polyp, unless, which is like a mushroom growing in your intestines, unless you create the same type of atmosphere that would create a wart and create a mushroom. So it's dark, lots of manure, rotting. That's what grows mushrooms. Tell me I'm wrong. You go pick wild mushrooms, and you'll find them wherever the cow poop is. You'll find lots of mushrooms. So stagnation of waste. So let's get rid of the waste, bring back the circulation, bring back the flow, and those polyps will shrink. Go ahead, get them cut off. See how well that goes. I would never do it. I would never get my polyp cut off, but that's my personal opinion. Do whatever you want to do, because when you cut it, you bleed. More infection could get in there. And understand something. The more you mess around inside the large intestine, the more complications that can happen. Okay? All right? How many people go for colon tests where they put the camera up into the intestine, where they have you drinking all of these things to try to clean your bowel out? Understand something right now. Myself, I will never do it because I know how to look after myself. But I can understand if you don't look after yourself, you'll want to get tested every year to find out if you're dying or sick. But the reality is that healthy people don't get sick. That is truly the case. Okay? All right, so let's move on. So polyps, you can get rid of them. Just change the environment. What did Louis Pasteur say? The environment is everything. The terrain is everything. Focus on the terrain. Don't get trying to get rid of the bug, because right now the polyp would be the bug. I know it's not a bug, but it's something that you grew, and you only grew it because the environment was unhealthy. What happens if you had a healthy environment? Would it go away? I can tell you this, that it would. Spasm. Well, understand something. Oh, I got a spasm. Oh, I got a spasm. Well, understand every time that you have a spasm, your intestine is in spasm. And the more that it goes into spasm, the more inflamed it is, and the more beef jerky it's going to be. And we already talked about that. That if we have to go in there and use Wolfe Non-Surgical to try to get that open and to get you on a better diet. But guess what? If you don't want to do surgery first, but some people will just want to opt for surgery. Get rid of it. Get rid of it now. And I understand. That's your choice. That is your choice. Okay. So next thing, colitis. Well, there you go. Now you've got that beef jerky spasm down in the lower part of the bowel, and now you've got impaction. You've backed up all that waste. Okay? And do you know how many people live like this? And they live like this for almost their whole life. And we don't have to. Colitis means inflammation of the colon. And you wouldn't have colitis if you didn't have constipation. And with colitis, you are going to get diarrhea. And the colitis is going to move into mucosal because of the inflammation. You're creating all this mucus. That's going to be coming out. And then eventually you'll have bleeding colitis because now you've got ulceration that's eating into the lining. And now you're going to see blood. All right, let's move on. So stricture. Now a stricture is where, now do you see how it's really thin on one end and thin on the other? That's not great. This is when people cannot poop no more, and this is not great. If you can't poop, your life is in jeopardy. So you can go to surgery, or you can try to go on the perfect day, get Wolfe Non-Surgical, do pelvic squats, clapping, belly button therapy. You know what? Just remember, you go for surgery. After you heal, you'll still need to get Wolfe Non-Surgical, because that scar tissue will be immense, because surgery creates more scar tissue because the body always overcompensates. When the body's inflamed or when it feels terrorized, it creates way more scar tissue than it should. Then we've got to go in there and clean up the mess. Next, prolapsus. We talked about that already. So that's where the transverse colon falls down, creates a valley, and it falls on top of all the other organs. And just think of the slow, stagnant transit time for your poop by the time it gets out. You can change this. Believe it or not, we do what's called an abdominal lift. And whether you want to believe this or not, we could take that transverse part that's red and we could actually lift it up by 3 inches in the first treatment. You'll actually feel it. And we're doing it in a loving way. And understand, then you need to start doing the proper exercises, proper diet, if you ever want it to come up. Remember something. Sometimes you're so tired, you feel like your face is falling down. You feel like everything is falling down. It's all about tone. And don't ever forget, your large intestine is a muscle. And that muscle has lost its tone. And if we bring back the circulation, we'll bring back the tone. We'll bring back the life. We can do this. And your colon is like a snake. So here, they're called hostras here. So this squeezes, this squeezes, this squeezes, this squeezes, this squeezes, and it moves everything along. But what if there's no tone left for the squeeze? What if it just gets so inflamed that it squeezes like a fist and it doesn't allow poop to get by it? What if it chokes down on itself? That can happen anywhere in the body. If you get too much inflammation, you get too much contraction. When you get too much inflammation, you get too much glicky, sticky uric acid, lactic acid, calcification coming in, walling it off, and then the scar tissue wrapping it up, and then you get a block. Everything is about a physical block. Remember something, anywhere that you feel pain in your body, you've got a physical block, whether it's a calcium problem, scar tissue, or crystallization, or all of them. Right. And we always have a mental block before a physical block. Okay? So just know that you can reverse these things. And then, of course, prolapsus with pressure on lower organs. Well, of course, come on. Everything's falling down. You're crushing those organs. Man, you've got so much trouble coming for you. Life is a burden. What does it feel like to be a prisoner held in a physical body? You've created your own invisible prisons. And that's right. They're invisible bonds that bind you and they blind you. And understand something. Nobody wants to be held prisoner. You know, if I had to be held prisoner in my body, I understand why people, and I do understand. So please don't take this wrong. I understand why people want to end their life. Because nobody wants to live in pain and suffering. And I'm telling you right now, it's like nobody has any answers. All the greatest minds in the world have no answers. Well, that's because you're never going to have the answer until you understand you are the answer. And that's the God's truth. And then we'll take a look at external and internal hemorrhoids, everybody. Okay? All right? Wrecked them. Pain almost killed them, right? Okay. Well, just understand something. Hemorrhoids are from many things. Okay. Constipation, which is absorption of waste, which is concentrating the waste, and it's weakening the rectal tissues, right? Do you get that? And also you're pushing down with your diaphragm to try to get your poop out because it's stuck. So between trying to push down and from so much infection, from absorbing the waste and having so much physical pressure in there from being constipated, so chemical, physical pressure pushing down blows you out. So you blew it out. It's like the same thing. The bulge, right? The bulge that we call diverticuli in the large intestine. Well, there's a bulge that is sticking out of your bum, or it's just inside your bum that you blew out because it got poisoned and you pushed and it got thin. The muscle got thinned and there was no tone to the tissue. End of story. There's hemorrhoids. So I can understand. You know, if they're painful, you want to get them cut off. But the reality is if you don't change your diet, there's always going to be a riot going on inside of there. Okay, here we go. So here's the problem, guys. Inguinal hernias, they're like the greatest epidemic going on right now. And that's because of pelvic rot. Remember I said you're rotting out. And it's the God's truth. Okay, so you have what's called the peritoneum, and it holds everything in. Okay, and that peritoneum is giving away and rotting out. And so you see the sigmoid and cecum. Well, you're looking at the intestines bulging through because the lining has given out. And that is an inguinal hernia. So understand something. When you get started with this, you can actually repair it. But if it gets to the point like on the sigmoid side, that's not good. And the reality is, if you've got an inguinal hernia, you better think about something. You better get sutures instead of mesh. If you get mesh, you're putting a foreign body in there and you're going to poison your whole pelvis area. And understand something, people don't get it. You could have headaches, you could have brain dysfunction, and you can have things going on in your body and you don't even know it's coming from the mesh that's down in your pelvis. And the mesh costs them $25, costs $2,000 to do the surgery. The pharmaceutical companies have pushed this onto doctors when they could be using dissolved sutures. You know, in British Columbia where I live, my patients have to fly out of the province and go to Ontario to actually get the surgery because they will not do sutures here because they'll only do mesh because it's quicker. And guess what? The mesh is always an irritation. And when you put mesh in, it's like putting rebar into cement and then the cement dries. You're stuck. You're stuck with that. Try to get that mesh out. And then you're stuck with it for life. Now, so if you've got mesh, you're still going to be okay, but you better get into the perfect day. You better learn how to do daily cleansing. You better learn how to get into that landmine and retrain your brain, okay, that you have unlimited potential. But understand, you better bring up your vibration, because if your vibration stays low and you stay with the same diet that's causing a riot, and then you've got the mesh, you've got a big mess going on, okay? Because it's, you know, think about this. You ever have a sliver? The infection you get, the inflammation, well, guess what? What kind of sliver is that? Okay? There's problem down in River City. So you need to think about things. Okay? When we get fearful, we jump the gun. When we jump the gun, sometimes we do stupid things. And no longer will we be stupid. We are going to use common sense. We're going to connect to our breath. And the next time the doctor says, you do this now, get going, and he's creating all kinds of fear, you stay connected to your lion heart breathing. And then if you want, you can call me and I'll tell you what I would do if I was in your situation. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it because this is your life. This is your body. This is not about me trying to prove them wrong. This is about me saying you can go with them, or you can try something else that's not as evasive and something that's not as dangerous. But if you need to go do that, you do that. But while you're trying to go to do that, can we go and try to love ourselves well, just for the fun of it, just for the love of it? I want you to think about it. Okay, so erectile prolapse. And let me tell you something. This happens more than you think. This is where you actually lose tone, and the inside lining of your rectum actually comes out. I'll tell you something. I had a lady that came to me, and her intestine would come out by about 7 inches. And understand something. She came to me the first time, and it was still pink. She came back to me the second time, and I'm not going to tell you how it happened. That's not the point. But the reality is, the second time she came back, it was gray. And I said, the only thing you can do is go for surgery. It's actually died. Okay? The first time we helped you and we got it up there, you should have stopped doing what you were doing. And you understand something. When your rectum falls out of your butt, okay, you need to understand that your tissue is dying. Okay? It is pulling away from itself. And why is it dying? Well, I'm going to tell you something. You can have somebody that has any type of pelvic problem or rectal problem like this, and you can restore it. It's all about returning circulation, getting rid of the infection. And I know the tricks. I've been doing this forever. I'll tell you, we'll have people coming here that are in so much pain they can't even hardly walk. They need help. And that's because they either have a prostate problem, they have a uteral problem, ovarian problem, bladder problem, or they have a rectal prolapse, or they just have hemorrhoids so bad internally and externally. And this can all be turned around. You are the greatest healing mechanism in the world. Please do not give up on you. You are not broken. You are not broken. You are amazing. And just know that. Okay? Erectile fistula. Okay. All right. So do you know what a rectal fistula is? Okay. A rectal fistula is where you actually have waste sitting in the last part of your large intestine, and it creates so much acid and chemical and ammonia-like, and it eats a hole into your tissue. And if you're a woman, it will actually be dripping this fecal waste and liquid into your vagina. Okay, so women will actually wipe themselves from urinating, and they will smell it or see it. Okay, they don't smell it, but they can smell it. And understand something. If you're a man, it's just going to be going into your pelvis. But if it's a woman, you're going to infect the whole vaginal canal and everything in there. So understand, this is nothing to mess with, okay? We need to be on top of this bowel, large intestine, immune system situation, all right? And then let's talk about a fissure. A fissure is like a crack, and it's like a crack near in between your rectum and your anus. And what it is it gets, because it gets so dried out, okay, so dried out, and then the dripping of the chemicals come down and irritate and dry out the anal area. So when the poop comes, it cracks it, because it's supposed to have moisture, it's supposed to have flexibility, it's supposed to have elasticity. It's not supposed to be beef jerky and fried out from the chemicals of the putrefaction of the waste that's been lodged inside of you. Okay? So all of this can be replaced, and there's things that you can do to help to heal this really quickly. So understand, you don't have to live like this, guys. And if you want to do drugs to do it, do drugs to do it. Or you can call on Nature's Pharma, and we'll get right to it. Okay? So you have a choice. And we talked about SIBO earlier. So there would be the ileocecal valve. Inside you see the small intestine. Then it goes to the large intestine. And basically, you backed up your waste in the large intestine into your small intestine, and now you've got small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And everybody tries to attack it from the mouth, taking lots of things, which is great. I get it. But you've got to get the large intestine in gear. And the problem is there's a lot of people that their ileocecal valve stays open, and we can actually close the ileocecal valve in 3 to 5 minutes and it'll stay closed. Why? Because it's inflammation and crystallization that keeps it open, or scar tissue. And by doing Wolfe Non-Surgical, we can close it just within minutes. I kid you not. And then we'll show you how to keep on doing it to make sure that that door closes when it's supposed to. I like to think of the large intestine as a river, okay? All right? And understand something. That river needs to flow in the right direction. And if it doesn't, okay, or something detours it, okay, there's going to be a flood. And when you flood things, okay, all right, people can die. So let's talk about this. The large intestine, okay, if you take a look at this slide right now, let's first look at a slide and let's talk about women for a second, all right? Now, if you take a look at the slide on the left that says normal, okay, take a look what's in the pelvis, everyone. Okay, you've got your uterus, you've got your ovaries, you got the bladder, okay, you got the pubic bone, okay, you've got the urethra, you've got the vagina, okay, and then look at here, we got the rectum, okay, so understand something. Rectum, it almost killed them. So now take a look at the right picture, okay, look at that. Now this, believe it or not, okay, is the majority, okay, of women and men, but we're talking about women right now. So understand that. The world, or at least North Americans, I won't speak for everyone, like that are eating high fiber diets and that are getting lots of exercise and lots of structured water, okay, and living a life of more sanity, let's say, okay. But let's talk about the majority of North Americans, okay. The majority of North Americans are constipated. Now, when you're constipated, okay, that does not mean you don't go to the bathroom. It means you backed up traffic. Now, sometimes I think, did God play a little trick on us? Because guess what? When your intestine, okay, large intestine, and when the last part of your large intestine, or even the middle of it, or the beginning of it, get impacted, do you know what happens? You absorb your own waste. Now, as I was saying about the river, everything flows downstream. And understand something, I already said that when you detour that river, it might not give you what you want. And what's that being? Health and life? No, it'll give you, you won't be at ease. You'll have a disease. And understand, you'll have infection, you'll have inflammation, scar tissue formation, crystallization, calcification. But take a look at the fecal mass that's backed up there. Now, isn't this something? You know, that's why I say, did God play a little joke on us? Look where the uterus is. Look where the bladders are. Look where the ovaries are, the urethra. Okay, the fallopian tubes. They're all sitting in the same neighborhood. Okay, so understand something. What is the most important thing that a woman can do is to make sure that she has a great poo. And understand, make sure that she has at least 2 of them a day, and maybe even 3. And they can even be just slightly on the mushy side. Because if you keep that clean, you're going to keep your whole pelvis clean. And whether you want to believe this or not, I'm going to tell you right now, 95 to 98% of all the surgeries, all the cancers, okay, all the scar tissue, all the inflammation, all the pain that you're suffering in this pelvic area could be avoided if you were voiding, if you were eliminating, and you were doing it on a continual basis. And this is why I talk about the daily cleansing tea, the black gold, and the tummy love. Oh my gosh, just do these 3 things, these 3 pillars. Let me tell you something. If you don't want to have painful periods, if you don't want hip replacement, if you don't want fibroids, endometriosis, bladder infections, painful lovemaking, okay? If you don't want, okay, low back problems, and guess what? Don't you dare think that when you absorb this waste from the large intestine, of course, I mean, the area closest to the impaction, okay, where the waste is constipated, waste, that's the area that's going to be the most toxic. And guess what? Your pelvis is the holy grail. Don't you ever, ever forget this. All right, you women, if you have the time, please take a look at my I Am Woman Masterclass. You really want to get into that and delve into it, and you'll find out that mankind has manipulated you into constipation, infection, inflammation, and mutation. And understand this. Take a look at this next slide. Oh, so here's the uterus, okay? There's the ovaries. So guess what? What do you think an ovarian cyst is for? An ovarian cyst is just a storage tank for the pus and the infection, because if you didn't have the cyst, you'd have cancer already. And understand something. You know how you can get your uterus and your ovaries removed? Well, what did they used to call that when they used to do that to a dog? Spading a dog. Why would they spade the dog? Well, they didn't want the dog to have children. Children. Didn't want the dog to have puppies. But the other thing is they would spade the dog, okay, all right? Or I'll tell you something else in a second, but they'll spade the dog. Why? To calm it down. So understand something. You don't calm it down. You're numbing it out. You're dumbing it down. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. The uterus and the ovaries are command central for a woman. That is a generation station of energy, of hormones. And understand something. When your uterus and your ovaries get into trouble, okay, all right, and your pelvis gets inflamed, your breasts are going to be sore. They're going to be tender. Tell me I'm wrong. Women will get tender and sore breasts before their period because they're getting ready to detoxify and the toxins are going down to the pelvis. But because the pelvis is already congested, the alarms go off. That's right. The alarms go off. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So understand something. You know, it's like this. What would they do to a horse? They'd make it a stud. If they wanted to calm it down, they would take its testicles, and it would be called a gelding, because that would calm it right down, wouldn't it? Well, what do you think happens when you take a woman's ovaries and uterus? It's not called calming them down. It's called numbing them out. And they actually used to do this with women that were hysterical, right? Okay? This world is a crazy place, and it's one crazy ride, I'll tell you that much. Okay, so take a look here. So what you're looking at right now is uterine cancer. And you can see it there just on the right. And understand something. So you're going to make cysts before you have cancer, but you're not going to get uterine cancer unless you have brought the oxygen level down in that area down by 35% for a few days or more. And understand something. When you choke things off, they don't want to die. So they mutate so they can live off of sugars, and they can live off of lactic and uric acid and all the acidity that's down there, because there's tons of it. So it's just your body wanting to survive. So as soon as you change your personality, right, parts of your personality, and create a different day for yourself, like the perfect day, you're going to have perfect tissue. But the other thing is the issues in your tissues were caused in your mind. And if you're not willing to go in and change those, then how do you do that? Because you have to understand, like I said earlier, that thought form creates physical form. All right, let's move on. So remember what I was just saying? Pelvic inflammation. It's like, when you've gone to the fair. When you go to the fair and you get that hammer and you come down and you hit it down, ding. Okay, and then where do you think the breast tenderness comes from? Well, that's because you went and have pelvic inflammation, which you have contamination and infection that's leaking from your large intestine. And so guess what? When that happens, we already know you've been backing up plaque and waste in your large intestine, so your lymph is unable to dump. So now the lymph nodes under your armpits are getting swollen and congested, and your pelvis is inflamed. So boom, your breasts go boom, and it's called a wake-up call. And understand something, if you don't want to look after that, then they'll keep on getting inflamed, and then you'll start getting a scar tissue issue in there, and then you'll start getting crystallization in there, and then you'll start getting calcium deposits. And when you start getting calcium deposits in your breast, it's called, hey, we're getting closer to cancer here. Can somebody please wake up and go downstairs, all right, and clean the mess? Because you fill from the bottom up. You fill from the bottom up. You need to get this. You fill from the bottom up, everybody. Okay? All right. So understand something. Prolapse bladder. Did you know that 49% of the female population leaks urine? Do you know how many people can't urinate? They have to get up. They go to the bathroom. They might go 3 to 5 times. They can't sleep at night because there's that irritation, inflammation in there. Okay, and then they get up and they struggle through the darkness and they bang their toe. They get to the toilet, 3 or 4 drops come out. Well, what do you think happens? Like I told you earlier, you're just reabsorbing your waste. That waste goes throughout your system, goes through your kidneys, and now it's held. It's held. Where is it held? That waste is also sediment in the bottom of your bladder, irritating, inflaming the bladder, causing it to contract on itself. Did you ever get hit with something and then you just wanted to curl up? Well, that's what it wants to do, just curl up to protect itself. And it doesn't want to expand because that hurts it to expand. Just like I can't move my arm, so I got to keep it still. Well, it doesn't want to expand because it's causing a problem. But here's the deal. It's not even that. Your large intestine's falling down. And it's falling down, causing pressure. So the more that you lack tone, the more that things fall down. And so a prolapsed bladder is a bladder, okay, that needs to go to the gym. But how do you get it to the gym? You got to detoxify it to give it enough energy to work out. And that would be to hold the urine again, okay? All right, so you can see you've got your uterus, okay? And then you've got your bladder, okay? And look where the bowel is. So understand something. I'm right. Almost 100% of all bladder problems, okay, and any type of pelvic problem is from the large intestine, okay? And that's the bottom line, okay? So scar tissue in the fallopian tubes. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and this is a true story, okay? So we have people that come to us from all over the world, and where she's got scar tissue in her fallopian tubes, or his swimmers aren't that strong, and it will only take us sometimes a few weeks to a few months, and boom, they're pregnant. So understand something. You've got scar tissue in your fallopian tube, just like you have scar tissue everywhere else. You've got inflammation in your fallopian tube. So what do you think happens? Now scar tissue grows there. I told you that. Wherever inflammation is, the body's going to make fibrin, send the fibrin there to try to isolate and lock down that inflammation so it doesn't turn into mutation. So scar tissue formation is better than mutation, isn't it? How would you like to have, that's why you look at grandpa and he's walking and he can't hardly move, or grandma, and you go, are you okay? I don't feel a thing. That's right, because the scar tissue has locked down all the pain and inflammation. The calcium from their bones has left their bones and it's locked it all down. So the reality is they don't have their health anymore, but they're not dead. Because if it wasn't for the calcium, if it wasn't for the scar tissue and the crystallization, they would have mutated and died. And I'll tell you something right now. You might not have heard this before, but I'm absolutely right, and I don't mind being challenged, okay? So now if you take a look at men, the same situation is happening. I just want everybody to understand something, that in the next 5 years, prostate cancer is supposed to go up a beautiful 400%. Think about that, 400%. And understand something right now, as I speak, doing this here, I just thought I'd let you know that right now I have 8 prostate cancer patients I'm working with. And I probably have about 20 to 30 prostate patients that have inflamed prostates and they can't pee properly. Okay, so there, if you guys want to talk about an epidemic, the epidemic is actually coming from the large intestine. There's the epidemic. And understand something. People that are healthy do not get viruses. People that are healthy do not have fungal infections. People that are healthy do not have bad bacterial problems. Understand something. Healthy people are healthy. Sick people are sick. And sick people are toxic. And they can be toxic emotionally and physically. And understand that. And this doesn't make people bad. But they might have bad beliefs. And those bad beliefs are causing lots of problems. And when it comes to men, they are not open-minded. Women are open-minded. Thank God for that. The world wouldn't even exist right now. But the reality is, let me tell you something. You may not like this, everybody, especially you men. I meant not men, everybody, but men. And that is this. I have a technique where you can use a rectal vibrator and you can use other things and do other things. And if you want, okay, whether you've got a bladder problem, testicle problem, pelvic problem, prostate problem, you can turn that around. But you're going to have to take massive personal action, okay, and get the blinders off and not live in some little box. And understand something. The day that we stop thinking that a drug, which is toxic, is going to heal us, you know what? I could count on one hand probably of all the drugs that actually do what they should do is heal us. Hey, listen, I'm not against drugs. I'm telling you, if it's going to save someone's life or if it's going to bring the pain and the inflammation down, that we can calm things down. But what about bringing health back to that person? What about getting rid of the issues in the tissues and looking at the issues in the mind that caused that landmine in the first place? All right. So, inflamed prostate. So take a look at it, guys. So if you take a look, you've got your bladder, urethra, and then there's your prostate gland. Now, when this thing swells, it's not a pretty thing. Well, and I'm not laughing, but we'll have like every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have somebody walk in here that can hardly walk, that need help, that their prostate's so inflamed they can barely walk. Now, the reality is by the time that they walk out, and even if they don't come to me, if they work with me long distance on Skype or by phone, it doesn't really matter. Listen to me, everyone. You don't have to come to us. The reality is this. We do consultations. We charge $125, so there's not profit there. But the reality is we can Skype you, we can FaceTime you, we can just call you. It doesn't matter. There's so many ways to do this. And understand, correct information is what's going to get rid of the inflammation, the mutation. It's going to give you back your life. So, you want to create the perfect day. So you men, if you don't want to take action and change your day, change your mind, the way you do things, then it's not going to turn around. And understand something. I already told you that the pelvis is the holy grail of energy. All right? So you might want to start doing your homework. This is the end of part 9, the domino effect of a nation of constipation. We will see you in part 10, rotten to the core.